As a child, the mercenary was consistently mocked for his animal-like appearance. Those born with the curse of the beast are called beast fallen, and they have superhuman-level abilities. He was beloved dearly by his mother and father, who were fully human but had lost them due to raids of cruel humans. Nowadays he finds himself constantly on the run from bounty hunters and witches. He stumbles across a hungry little girl who traps his attacker in a mud prison and reveals herself as a witch. Despite his initial suspicions of her, the mercenary decides to share his soup and join her quest as her bodyguard to find a grimoire from a maze called 13, which is a book that can destroy the world. The witch, later recognized as Zero, draws up a blood contract, which promises to return the mercenary as a human after the quest is complete. However, the mercenary tears up the contract and says we don't need it. He asks for her hand and initiates a blood oath instead, using their thumbs, saying that's how we mercenaries do it. The next day, Zero shows the mercenary the difference between sorcery and magic against a boar in a forest, in which we discover that sorcery requires a magic circle, while magic does not. Zero uses her knowledge to negate the spell of a boy who attacks them and is revealed to be the one who wrote the grimoire that the boy and his comrades used to learn magic. The boy, called Albus, accepts his defeat and joins Zero and the mercenary on their trip. When they stop at a nearby spring to rest, Albus spots a ring in the water and decides to keep it. As the three head to a nearby village, a farmer gives each of them a tomato, and the mayor shows them to their launch. The villagers viciously accuse Albus of stealing the ring from a granny with the long braid, but Albus responds by defending an infamous witch called Sorna, who was burned at the stake for using sorcery. Not wanting to get the higher authorities involved, the mercenary runs away, carrying the two witches to their lodge to hide. Zero tells the mercenary that Sorna, who was a moon caller, was wrongfully accused of spreading a rat plague in the village. The villagers hunt down and eventually corner the mercenary Zero and Albus in the forest. However, the granny helps them escape, revealing herself to be a witch who gave up her powers to marry a normal human, with the ring as a wedding gift from Sorna shortly before her death sentence. Zero and Elvis act as concubines of the mercenary in order to be allowed inside the gates of Formicium. Much to the mercenary's embarrassment, the mercenary demands that Zero should buy herself a new outfit, so Albus joins him to help pick out Zero's attire at a clothing store, but the mercenary quickly throws Zero into the changing room for being immodest. The fat bald tailor gleefully yet creepily accepts Zero's old robe as payment for a new outfit. The trio struggles to find lodging in for further night, but after the mercenary rescues a lady from a beast-fallen bear in an alley, a beast-fallen werewolf points the mercenary towards an inn that accepts non-humans. At night, the mercenary sneaks out to a bar, but Zero follows him. The werewolf beast-fallen, later recognized as Hold'em, reappears and offers to trade his three witches for Zero. The mercenary refuses, suspecting that they are just normal slave ladies, and instead follows Hold'em back home to free them. However, Hold'em spots the mercenary and challenges him to a duel. The mercenary knocks him unconscious and frees the slave ladies, while Zero strips Hold'em of the fur on his torso and tail. After Zero assists the mercenary in taking a bath, the trio continue on their journey, as Zero sees a couple kissing. The mercenary teaches her that a kiss is a way to show love and that it's not some sort of ritual. Outside the gates, the trio witness a beast-fallen badger being a jerk to a young girl with dark red hair who has a wound on her ankle. Zero orders the mercenary to treat the kid's wound with ointment and bandage it up, while Zero herself discreetly uses healing magic. During their travel to Latet, they eventually stop at a stream. Zero explains that her grimoire is divided into 4 books, them being hunting, capture, harvest, and protection, while a practitioner's personality and emotions are directly related to magic proficiency. With that in mind, Albus is able to catch fish using magic. At night, the mercenary discusses his dream of opening a tavern after becoming a human. Albus mentions that his parents died in a witch hunt, while Zero barely remembers her parents from spending her life in a cave studying sorcery. As the group finally reaches Leighton by daybreak, they are shocked to discover all the townspeople appear to be dead. As the trio surveys the dead, townspeople, Zero notes that multiple types of classical element magic were used against the townspeople, but most of the buildings were left standing. Zero prevents Albus from attacking a looter with a scar on his face, who tells the mercenary about a hooded mage who is impervious to magic attacks. After the trio is unable to locate the grimoire in the library of a church, Albus finds and tries to heal an old man sorcerer who is nearly dead meat. Before dying, the sorcerer tells Albus that the hooded mage caused other sorcerers to disintegrate when they used magic bows and arrows. As there are also dead mages who had their magic stolen, Albus deduces that the one behind this is none other than 13. The mercenary is suddenly trapped in a forced summoning spell until Zero wakes him up. The trio ends up in a dungeon where 13 appears and tells them that he was hired by the king to kill a town full of rebellious mages, in exchange for help in searching for the grimoire. Zero and 13 then engage in a magic battle, with the mercenary unable to interfere. Zero and 13 abruptly stop their fight when they hear a dinner bell. 13 leads the trio to the dining hall, revealing that the fourth summoning spell transported them inside the palace of the royal capital, called Plasta. After their meal, Zero and 13 discuss that they are both searching for the grimoire that Zero wrote in the caves, since it was stolen by their master, who killed all of the other witches who lived there. Disagreeing with 13's views of justice, Albus has offered one night to choose between joining 13 or being burned at the stake. Zero confirms that she and 13 were the only two survivors in the caves. She wrote the grimoire so that witches and humans can live in harmony, but she should have heeded 13's warning, and burned the grimoire before incurring any damage. Later that night, 13 summons the mercenary and offers a potion that could turn him into a human. 13 tells the mercenary to leave the castle, claiming that Zero is ultimately using him for a sacrifice. When the mercenary runs into Zero on his way out of the castle, she berates him for being deceived by 13 and terminates their contract. As Plaster prepares for a festival, the mercenary knocks out a drunken beast fallen pig who tries to steal liquor from a salesman. Rochelle, a girl who works at an empty tavern, enlists the mercenary since she is temporarily understaffed. He impresses her with his cooking skills and tells her that he plans to open a tavern of his own when he becomes a human. After he leaves upstairs, a beast fallen deer, frog, and a cow annoy Rochelle and her father for their poor customer service. When the mercenary hears the commotion, he knocks out the other beast fallen before leaving the tavern. Later in the forest, the mercenary is attacked by witches led by Hold'em, who gets shot in the back, and the mercenary takes out the witches until he gets shot in the stomach. Back at the dungeon, Zero prepares to fight 13 until she suddenly coughs up blood as the mercenary is magically healed. The mercenary prepares to feast on the remaining witch, but stops himself. He comes across the wounded Hold'em, who begs him for help for the sake of the Great Witch, Sorna's granddaughter, who might hold the grimoire. While recovering from his injuries, Hold'em tells the mercenary that he used to be a noble knight as the human, who fled his position after being caught having an affair with his brother's infidels. After encountering Sorna in a forest, Hold'em asked her to transform him into a beast-fallen werewolf, so he could stay with her and her granddaughter. Although Hold'em tried to save Sorna from being captured by the villagers from before, Sorna gave herself up and entrusted Hold'em with her granddaughter. However, Sorna's granddaughter left Hold'em in search of answers. Back at the castle, Zero finds herself unable to escape her room while Albus continues to refuse 13's offer to join his cause. The mercenary overhears from a traveling man with flamboyant facial hair that Albus is going to be burned at the stake. As the mercenary and Hold'em rush to the palace square, Hold'em is shocked to discover that Albus is actually Sorna's granddaughter. The mercenary and Hold'em rescue Albus from the stake and steal a carriage, but 13 sends knights after them outside the castle. After the mercenary, Albus and Hold'em fall off a cliff, 13 is convinced that the three are still alive. After they all recover, the mercenary learns from Albus that 13 plans on killing all the rogue witches and the sorcerers. Since all the sorcerers signed a blood contract with 13. Albus proposes to draw 5 magic circles that would connect into a larger magic circle, thus cancelling the magic of sorcerers without killing them. Albus mentions that while he was locked in an underground cell, Zero collapsed and was taken away somewhere by 13. The mercenary Albus and Hold'em escape from 6 assassin servants sent by 13. They decide to head back to Formicium so Albus can use Zero's old robe to pinpoint Zero's current location. As Albus says that Zero is being held in a tower inside the castle back in Plasta, the mercenary sets off to rescue Zero by climbing the steep cliff, while Albus and Hold'em begin to set up the magic circles. However, some surviving sorcerers stop Elvis as she finishes the second magic circle, inspired by her words during the execution before she was rescued. After Albus announces her intent to end magic forever, the sorcerers decided to put her on trial. The mercenary finally infiltrates the tower where Zero is being held, and they embrace upon their reunion. However, they fall into another force summoning spell set by 13. Meanwhile, Albus and Hold'em are held captive by the surviving sorcerers, who receive word from their leader to prepare a spell powerful enough to kill 13 as Hold'em tries to untie himself. A braided-haired female sorcerer and a brown-haired male sorcerer order the other sorcerers to take Hold'em to be sacrificed. The mercenary awakens back in the dungeon with 13, while Zero is trapped in a magic sealed cage. 13, who actually was carrying the Grimoire this entire time, acted as both an official state sorcerer and the leader of the sorcerers in a plot to destroy all the sorcerers for supposedly choosing to use their powers against humans. After forcing the mercenary to grovel before him, 13 claims that his plot would ultimately bring about the perfect world that Zero wanted. As the mercenary provokes 13 into anger, the former uses the potion to destroy the cage holding Zero. An old male sorcerer is sympathetically frees Hold'em, who then prepares to rescue Elvis before the other sorcerers carry out their attack. 0 and 13 face off casting identical ghost spells, with the mercenary witnessing the battle, as 13 is about to be hit by Zero's ghost spell. The mercenary takes the attack, but Zero gets injured due to the blood oath that she secretly implemented during his bath earlier. Meanwhile, Albus continues to urge the sorcerers to follow his cause of erasing all magic. When Zero regains consciousness, she reveals that her spells appear to be different because she intentionally put subtle errors in the grimoire, as a protection measure in case it fell into the wrong hands. Realizing that he will never surpass Zero, 13 gives up on his ambition and decides to help Zero seal the magic. Albus is rescued by Hold'em and the two escaped from the sorcerers, meeting up with 0. The mercenary and 13 in the forests. Having learned the truth that 13 is the revered state sorcerer, Albus tries to kill 13, not realizing that killing him means that she would disappear due to her blood contract. 13 nullifies the contract, allowing her to kill him, but he asks Albus to give him a chance to fix the problems that he caused. 13 theorizes that Sorna's sacrifice started a war of witches against humans. The mercenaries group splits up, drawing one of 5 magic circles at a designated point and meeting up in the center, while 0 and 13 perform the ritual. The mercenary and Hold'em protect them from the sorcerers, as Albus arrives to help with the final part of the ritual. The mercenary's body is used as a vessel to seal the magic in the kingdom of Winius, ending the war. 3 days later, the mercenary wakes up and is still a beast fallen because Zero's magic has weakened. 0 finally has her grimoire back from 13, and Albus, now the official state sorcerer, has 13 burned at the stake in the palace square in order to unite humanity, but the stake is set up so that 13 can secretly escape, while the flames obscure the vision of the crowd before 0 and the mercenary depart. Albus kisses the mercenary on the cheek, much to Hold'em's displeasure. Zero not only reveals that 13 is her older brother, but also considers having a romantic relationship with the mercenary. However, the mercenary insists that he is only there for her protection, and this brings the anime to an end. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed